Agape love is the one that actually helps with building up effectiveness as a leader. You cannot have agape love without action. They walk into the room and it's like everybody's eyeballs are like, oh, who is this person? We are falsely evaluating leaders based on these concepts like charisma. These things are not sustainable because if you have confidence, but you don't have the skills of true leadership, humility, emotional intelligence, empathy, you become overconfident.
Marcel is an international speaker, executive coach, and also a contributing editor for Inc. magazine. His sole focus is in the human side of businesses, and he explores human connection, human care, and human belongings. He's also a host for the podcast Love in Action, and he explores how love plays a critical role in the practice and art and science of leadership. And he published a book called Human Leadership. The core focus of this conversation, we're going to explore what is love and how does love play a role in the context of leadership? Is there a way for us to potentially redefine leadership? And how can we harness the magic and power of love to lead not only ourselves, which is important, but also people around us? So good to have you, Marcel, with us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the introduction and setting the table for what I know is going to be an awesome conversation.
Beautiful. Beep, beep, beep. In front of you lands a spaceship, and out walks a friendly alien. If you were to invite the alien to play or into a conversation, to use one word, one sound, or one movement, what would that be?
It would have to be curiosity. If an alien is walking right in the living room, the first thing I want to know is all about them. Make it all about them. I think that's how we begin to learn and grow ourselves, is to start to be curious around people or aliens and how they behave and how they think and how what their belief system is. And so to me, it's that curiosity. It's invite them into dialogue and learn all about their lives.
Beautiful. Interview them. Nice. So why love? And what is love in the context of leadership?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you track all the research for the last 40 years, you can reference places like Gallup and the conference board and all these other great organizations that have the data. If you start to look at what makes a good leader or a good manager, it's not the things that we think about traditionally, strategy and drive and charisma and all that stuff. It's really all of the soft and fuzzy things that lend to success as a leader. And so when you start looking at those soft and fuzzy things, it all boils down to how you care about other human beings. But what I did is I went a step further. I call it for what it really is, and that's love. People want to feel loved at work, especially as they come into a new environment. They want to feel safe. They want to feel protected. They want to know that somebody is there to guide them, to set them up for success, to make sure that their voices are heard and they are seen. And all these things boil down to love when you think about it. And so love is sort of an off-putting term, isn't it, in the business world? You don't loosely throw around the word love, but what we're finding is that more and more authors, thought leaders are actually welcoming the word love into the business lexicon now, because a lot of that's what it takes to be a good leader. You have to be able to love well. And we can get into, all of the different aspects I came up with in our chat.
Yeah. How does love contributing to business outcomes and well-beings for everyone?
Well, we are still in a society that that rewards the wrong type of behaviors when you're talking about leadership, and a lot of those behaviors lend to toxic work environments, stressed out employees that burn out eventually. And so bringing more love and care into the workplace, now you're talking about creating well being across an organization. That's really good. For business, but that's not why you do. I mean, that's the kind of the icing on the cake and the cherry on top is the business outcomes, right? That you're going to get when you have a workforce that isn't stressed out. They're not looking over their shoulder. They don't have a micromanaged environment. All these things lend to great well-being and great mental health. And when you have those things in place, you're going to have high performance. You're going to have people that love coming to work and contributing at a high level. And so I think that's why we need to have more of the love and the leadership aspects, and bring that into the business world to kind of address the toxicity so that we are taking care of our employees first, right? And that's
Mm.
the reason that you do it is because it's the right thing to do.
Uh,
You're driven by knowing that you care about other human beings. And then, like I said, when you do that, all the other things will fall into place, right? High performance, high retention, etc.
that's beautiful. It's like if you want to achieve something, we need to focus on the right conditions to bring that out, and then the outcome is just by default, it's gonna come.
That's very
And there's a
good.
deep sense of trust.
Yeah.
This is also a topic in your book, the ability to trust also. So what in your book, it's divided in a few elements and it's guided by the core tenets of the concept of love in the context of leadership. What are the core five tenets for the love leadership
Yeah.
concept?
So what? Yeah, when I investigated love in a business sense, we have to back up and kind of put some definition around what do we mean by love, right? And so if
Right.
you consult the Greeks, they have this whole love business down pretty good. They define it in several ways, I think 8 different ways. And one of those ways is they define it as agape love. And agape love is the one that actually helps with building up effectiveness as a leader. You cannot have agape love without action. And so that's what it's about. So if you're going to perform through that kind of love is action oriented. It's not a feeling. It's not a fuzzy
Mhm.
emotion. There's no such thing as agape love without action and backing it up with practical elements. So that leads us to, well, what are those practical elements? And
Yes.
I basically narrowed it down to 5. And if you're going to lead through a humane approach, you're going to lead with patience. You're going to lead with kindness. You're going to lead with humility. You're going to lead through advocacy. In other words, advocating for others. And you're
Mhm.
going to lead through trust. You're going to be a trustworthy leader. So that's the framework
Mm.
of the book right there. When you talk about, what is, if you're going to build a, a loving leadership culture, those are the 5.
That's beautiful. And so, very curious. So, out of those five elements, obviously they hold equal kind of weights contributing to the impact of love, the action of love. And in your book, you mentioned about self compassion, the importance of self compassion as a premises. Before we can truly love people who are outside of us in a very compassionate and action oriented way, why is it important to first talk about self love and self compassion, and how does self love and self compassion contribute to all the tenets of love in action?
Yeah. Well, if you are in any form of leadership, whether you're a parent, a partner, or spouse, and especially as a leader in the workplace, if you are leading from a place where you're an empty shell, you have nothing to give. You have nothing to offer. And so before addressing the team aspect of leading others, right, through love, you have to address the self loving aspect. Otherwise, you have nothing to give to, you have no love for others if you can't love yourself first. And so self compassion is a way to do that. It's a way to really care for yourself, care for your own well being, care for your
Yeah.
own mental health, right? If it means whatever, bringing in spiritual principles, spirituality into how you love yourself, right? Are you taking time to meditate? Are you taking time? We did this right before we started, right? Are you taking
Mm.
time to maybe even look after your physical well being, right? If you are stressed out, if you are burning out, that and you can feel your body give you signals that requires some self-compassion, self-love. So how do you do that? Well, I'll leave that up to the listener and the viewer to define how they can love themselves where they're at. But it can be something as simple as a loving kindness practice of breathing, taking space to meditate and be present with your feelings, your emotions, and be in community with other loving people that are going to
Mm.
support you where you're at, right? And having good self care habits. That's how you love yourself. You take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit. So when you begin to fill that empty vessel with self-love, now it begins to inspire you. You begin to be inspired to want to pay it forward and to want to love others as well and to want to better other people, right? But you have to be able to feel really good about what's going on inside you and fill yourself with that kind of love. And when you do, you're better equipped to be able to lead others through love as well.
That's very beautiful. It's like in order to give love to others, we need to first fill our cups full,
Hmm.
and automatically, then as a byproduct, the love comes through the cup that we're holding into other cups.
It overflows, right?
Overflows, yeah. And that's the only, I feel like that's the only sustainable way to continuously love people is to love and be compassionate about yourself and love other people as a byproduct. It's just
Yeah.
naturally.
Right. And we can, I mean, we can bring in other things like, for example, self-love in the way of, are you experiencing loneliness? Well, how do you address that through self-love? Be around people that love you, that support you. Are you constantly anxious? That's not loving yourself. So how do you address your anxiety through self-love and self-compassion? Is there an unresolved some kind of unresolved brokenness that you have not healed from? It's hard to love yourself unless you heal from your brokenness and start from a place of a kind of a new slate where you can see, you can have a different outlook in life and see things differently instead of being stuck in the same place where you're hurt and the cycles of hurt just keep playing over and over and over. So how do you love yourself in that sense? Well, you address your brokenness, right? You address the core root of your pain. So, and I'll let everyone define what that means, whether it's
Mhm.
therapy, whether it's, uh, taking more time away from work, maybe you're overworked,
Or
those are the
forget.
things that will bring more self-love. You have to first address sort of like what's keeping you stuck in a place where you can't really find that self-love. You can't get there. So sometimes we have to remove the obstacles first in the
Oh,
path of filling the cup full.
it's beautiful. So we need to first repair the vessel, the cup.
Yeah.
So when we have all the love, we get to hold them. That's beautiful. And then as we grow more love from our own vessels, we actually create of a more loving environment that will, in return, come back and heal each one of us in the environment. And that creates a loving environment, a group of loving people that we wanted to be around. So
Yeah.
it's all in all, it's like a beautiful kind of sustainable circle of love and beingness.
Yeah. And that's how
Nice.
you're going to heal broken systems and workplaces as well. Right. But it,
Mm,
it starts with you. And then
yeah.
hopefully that spreads outwardly to other people.
Yeah. And you've in your book, you've talked about a toxic work environment, and maybe this concept is not super unfamiliar to a lot of listeners,
Yeah.
and we probably have all experienced some sort of like toxicity. How do you maybe there's no one definition, but how would you at least describe what's on the feeling level, what a toxic environment can do and can impact in terms of our how we feel inside?
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about that recently and over the last year. And I think that in toxic environments, people that feel like they don't matter, not that they don't belong. Maybe you do belong to a team, but yet nobody cares about what you say. You're still part of the team, you belong, right? But we have to go beyond belonging because you may be in a place of belonging, but it's still a toxic environment because you're not heard, you're not seen, you don't matter. So you're not valued. And so I think that's the script we need to flip. And it starts with leaders creating the environment where people are seen and heard and they feel valued. And I think that's how we start to break down the walls of toxicity is help
Hmm.
people feel like they really matter.
Do you think in order to do that, maybe compassion plays a role? We talked about compassion for self. Does that then naturally transfer into the active compassion for others around us? And maybe once we practice the compassion, the automatic outcome is making people feel heard and seen.
Yeah.
How are these all related?
Right. Well, I'm going to assume your audience has a basic understanding of compassion of what it is because it's not empathy. Empathy is really having an understanding and stepping into someone's shoes to really feel what they're feeling. And is backed up with action. So we're talking about love in action. We talk about agape
Mm.
love. That is compassion. It's when you are able to understand the pain somebody is going through because maybe you've been through it yourself and then doing something about it. I love the imagery, and I'm not sure which religious faith this comes from. It might be from Christianity, where compassion is the Good Samaritan. I think it's in the New Testament of the Bible where there's a guy lying on the side of the road. He's bleeding. He's basically dying, and several people walk by and don't do anything. And then one Good Samaritan stops and basically takes care of this person's suffering, gets him into a place where he bandages his wounds and puts him into a hotel and pays for the innkeeper to take care of, make sure that his needs are taken care of. So translate that all to in today's world. How are you going to be a good Samaritan to your employees, coworkers, peers, colleagues? Right? It's you
And
basically
family.
remove the obstacles from their path. It's like removing the boulder from somebody's back, whatever that boulder is. If they are overworked, if they such big obstacles in their path, maybe they are from another country and they have to get over some cultural issues, right? Whatever the case may be, if they are stuck and they have obstacles in the path, compassion says, I'm going to alleviate that person's suffering because the workplace has a lot of suffering.
Mm.
And so we have to identify what those obstacles are in people's path, how people are experiencing pain, right? And so as a leader, that's what compassion does. It acts on the suffering to alleviate and remove people's paths so they can succeed and grow and contribute at a high level. So to me, that's
Mm.
sort of the slant on, and it's in my book. I give several examples of how leaders use compassion to help create a really good, healthy culture.
And the action itself is expression of love. The practice of compassion is to practice a sense of patience, a sense of understanding, and then use actions to people say it's like solve problems, we need to solve problems, but it's like it's more than that. It's not just a problem, it's the heaviness from somebody else. And I would automatically assume some of the audiences will say, well, I don't want it to like do somebody else's work, which is their own responsibility. Like there's a fine line between compassion and being a doormat of some sort. People may
Oh,
say
exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that because, a
boundaries.
lot of people may be people pleasing. And so what they do is they will carry somebody's boulder, and now they are juggling boulders. Now they are being overburdened, right? And so then now they need compassion themselves. Well, we still have to set good boundaries as leaders and peers and in our work environment to make sure that no, what falls on your side of that's your boulder, not mine. You have to carry that, right? Or your whatever imagery you want to use, right? But I mean, you want to make sure the boulder is not a boulder, it's just a small rock now because you have done whatever it takes to help that person get past whatever obstacle is in the way, right? So that we're not heavily burdened by these crazy, ridiculous expectations that the work may be putting on us, so that we relieve everyone from carrying really big, heavy boulders, right? So now we're just being able to manage how we do work with smaller rocks that we can hold in our hands, right? Now you have your rock, I have my rock. So that's just kind of a fun imagery that we can play with, but never expect compassion to be, oh, hey, let me carry that heavy boulder the size of a house. I gotcha. And then that person is free, but now you're not free.
How do we draw these healthy boundaries?
How we draw the healthy boundary, I think it's holding people accountable. I think there's accountability that needs to be part of the equation, right? If you are compassionate towards someone and you have a compassionate culture, that's great, but people still have to be held um, to excellence. And because we are in the business world, people still have to be held by whatever standards will make them successful at work. So
Hmm.
I think that's where we need to make sure there's the proper balance, right? Compassion, yes, we will help you and we alleviate your suffering so to set you up for success.
Hmm.
But accountability in return, we expect you now to perform at a high level, and so that we're all swimming in the same direction.
It's beautiful. So it's kind of integrating love with compassion, with healthy boundaries, with accountability.
Yeah.
It's a very delicate act, feels like. Mm. It's a lot of balances to be mindful of.
Mm.
And in your book, humility plays a huge role in the concept of love and love in action in leadership. And also in your book, you talk about how we give attention to the wrong characteristics about charismatic leaders and leaders who tend to speak up more, who just demonstrate this sense of confidence. And also we have this culture of like fake it until you make it, and then just like imposter syndrome, just like pretend you're there and just like pump it up and just pretend that you know everything. How does leaders of leading from the center of love act differently in that context?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the things that you mentioned, the charisma and even say take confidence. Every leader needs confidence, of course. But what happens is sometimes confidence is more on the outside. It's more of it's just the way that you portray yourself to the outside world, just like
Mm.
charisma. And so what happens is we leaders, based on our perception of what we think will be successful. So we think that confidence, if somebody walks into a room and they project confidence and they own the room, as they say, right?
Yeah.
and they show charisma and they're super outgoing. I mean, we've all met that kind of person that, you can't help it. They walk into the room and it's like everybody's eyeballs are like, oh, who is this person? Right. And so that might be like the charismatic leader. But what we're doing is we are falsely evaluating leaders based on these concepts like charisma. And here's another term, quote, executive presence. What does that mean? Right. And so these things are not sustainable because if you have confidence, but you don't have the skills of true leadership, humility, emotional intelligence, empathy, right? Then you become overconfident. And then that's when things get a little wacky and sideways because then your overconfidence because you lack humility will start to take over. And then that lends to all kinds of problems, right? Too much control over decision making, not allowing for people to provide input because it's your way or the highway, right? So that's kind of how confidence is not really a skill, a leadership skill that we have to evaluate on. It's those other things that I mentioned that should be competencies that will make a good leader. The 5 things that I mentioned in my book: patience, kindness, humility, trustworthiness, advocacy. Those are actual skills and behaviors that are sustainable over time. And that's how we should be measuring future leaders and hiring and promoting those kind of leaders that show those competencies, not somebody that just walks in and looks confident or speaks louder than everyone else.
And I think that circles back to the whole concept of love. It's subtle. It's not very performance. It's not a performance per se. It's a natural action. It's a byproduct of something invisible, something about our care, about our kindness, about our patience, about our trustworthiness. And all that takes time and feels like it's very slow but deep and authentic beingness that as a byproduct, the action carries that sense of energy, that sense of love, patience, kind, trust.
Yeah, yeah. And
Wouldn't that be a beautiful place to work?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, I would also add that you have to like people, right? If you're going to be a leader, you have to show that you like to be around people because leadership is all about relationships, healthy relationships. I've met many leaders that don't have good relationships, and that's why they're not good leaders. So you have to always remember that if you are ever thinking about putting yourself in a leadership role, or if you're somebody that right now is listening and going, I need to fill that spot with a new manager, high level manager, make sure that your first criteria is do they like to be around people? And are they caring towards others? Do they show interest in other people? Because if they don't, that's going to get them in trouble down the line because most issues and in the workplace I have tracked and in my own consulting and coaching practice, when I look at exit interview reports and engagement surveys, all of the reasons people quit or all of the reasons that managers are failing has to do with the people side of the business. It has to do with what's going on with emotions and behaviors and how people work together. It's all of the behavioral science, if you track that, has proven this over and over and over again. If we don't get the people part of the business right, you're always going to be suffering on the business side, right? So finding the right leaders that love people, love to be around people, and equipping them with the right skills to help create the right culture.
And also, as we kind of conclude this conversation, when you're talking about love, love goes beyond workplaces. Love is much bigger than workplaces. It goes into our families, our friendship, and just everything that we do or we be. So in the context of leadership, does that, if leadership is kind of love, does that expand the potential definition of leaders from leaders who have the titles, who have the positions, and the leaders who don't? Is there a similarity? Is there a potential expansion of the idea of leadership? Can talent be good leaders even if they don't have the title? Can they be a good leader in their family, in their teams? How do you see leadership in an expansive context?
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you asked. We've heard of the term high potential, right? You should always be tapping into your talent pool to identify those high potential employees that may be your future leaders. And yeah, they may be leaders right now. They may be leading from a different place within their teams, and by encouraging their coworkers, by helping to inspire them to get work done, there's always going to be that team member that shows those flashes of leadership, or in the loving sense, right, of leadership. And those are the people that you have to have, those people on your radar, because those are the people you want to put into the roles of of leading others in your organization. So yeah, it's not so much about the title, because title is a lot about status. Got to remove that. This is the whole status, and titles become about power. It's I'm up here, you're down there. No, identify. And by the way, I mean, like you said, you don't have to be a leader to lead. You can be an individual contributor right now if you're listening, and employ all of these principles we've been talking about. So how do you create more patience, more kindness around your team environment, right? Because that is going to spread outward, right? It's contagious. And this is scientific contagion. If you show kindness towards your teammate, that teammate is going to pay it forward. And that's how we break down structures that are toxic and stressed and anxious, spread more kindness. So that's a leadership trait right there. You don't have to be, I'm not a boss, so I'm not a leader. Well, show leadership.
It's not my responsibility.
Right. Yeah. Show leadership in your own sphere of influence right there, whether you're a team of 3, by showing more, developing more trust with your team members. And what does that look like? Right? Communicate more clearly and be more open and transparent with what decisions are being made. And if you don't understand a certain direction or how people are speaking to you, it's that ability to really be transparent and honest and vulnerable and say, hey, I have no idea what you just said. Can you run that by me again? But just make it into a simple language, right? What you're doing there is you're demonstrating leadership by helping other people to go, oh, hey, I'm so glad he did that, because I didn't understand a word this consultant said either. And so what happens is a lot of people in the room are nodding, like they understand what somebody is talking about. But that person that said, hold on, I don't get a word you said. Can you re-explain that, right? That's showing leadership right there, and being open and transparent, right? And that's helping other people to kind of understand, okay, in my environment, I can be open and transparent as well, and admit, I have no idea what this person just said, right? Now, imagine that kind of leadership where you don't have to have the boss title. You can just show that to your teammates, so that now everyone's like, I'm glad that in my team, if I don't know what the heck I'm doing, I can ask questions. And it's okay to not know. That shows humility as well. Another leadership trait from the book, humility, right? So yeah.
Yes.
So everybody can lead from where they are.
That's beautiful. As we move into the concluding part of this conversation, let's talk about the magic. So, when you were about maybe 11 years old, did you enjoy creating so much that time disappeared for you?
This is going to show my age. This is before any devices or iPads that my 11-year-old is now consumed by. And, I have to manage how much time he has. But back when I was 11, I was on the floor of my bedroom using my imagination to build cities out of blocks. And I would use my imagination to create things out of nothing, create highways, and then I bring out my little matchbox cars and drive them through all the streets that I created. And that's how I used to activate my magic, if you will. It was through imagination and just building things and creating things. So thanks for asking.
Wow.
That flashback was great.
You're welcome. Oh my goodness. So you have this like architect side of you.
Maybe a second career and I never knew about.
Yeah, city building. And also, I feel like the work that you do, like building culture and the ability to integrate the concept of love into the structure of leadership is architecting instead of blocks of buildings, architecting blocks of culture,
Oof,
of human to human relationships and environment. It's
that's so
invisible.
so good. That's such a good metaphor.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So, what role do you think heart's childlike wonder or heart's childlike vitality plays in your career and in your adventure in life?
What role does it play? I think that it opens me personally up to, well, first, I have to keep learning and growing. So the childlike wonder in that respect is to continue to evolve as a human being, get curious, ask questions, seek perspective, right? We live in such a divisive world now
Yeah.
where people can't even sit at the same table and have respectful dialogue. And so I would love to bring that kind of childlike wonder, because you get a bunch of 10-year-olds in a room, they don't care what your political affiliation is. No. And so it's bringing back the ability to just have natural, curious conversations to find out about the other person, what makes them tick, just to understand them. You don't have to agree with them as an adult, right? But at least it's just kind of seeking other people's point of view and perspective, right? Because that's going to open up a lot of other channels. That's going to break down the walls of division that we find ourselves in now.
That's beautiful. And as you were talking about like 10 years old, I even had like a visualization that as countries negotiate with each other, instead of grown-up adults, we can potentially consult a group of 10-year-old from their own countries and let them talk about it.
Right. Let them
That
be
would be
our
a totally different
consultants.
outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, play together. Sure. No wars. Yeah, no, I don't want my family get hurt. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Me
Well,
neither.
I know what my 11-year-old would say. He'd probably say, "Dad, you're just being too serious." Okay, well, that's good. How do I be less serious? How do I bring more play into my work life and my dialogue with other people, right? Doesn't have to be so heated. I don't have to debate everything, view everything through political lenses. Oh, just like 10-year-olds, they like to just get together and they like to play and goof off. Well, why don't we apply some of that sometimes?
Exactly. And I think it's all the perceptions that we've accustomed to, as if the credibility comes with the seriousness, and same with charismatic. Credibility comes with charismaticness. Credit comes from this confidence presents, and in the end it's all come back to love. Love can be very subtle, love can be very patient, Love does not show off. Love is embedded in the simple actions of curiosity, of listening, of finding out where's your rock that I can help you to carry for a moment of when you really need it, and love within ourselves, and how can we first repair our vessels, repair our glass so we can fill ourselves with a full cup of love and then extend the love to people around us, regardless if you have a title or not. So it's
Mm.
that reminds me why it's so beautiful to be a human. Is that
Yeah.
wonderful? So, as we complete this conversation, if you were to give us one tip of how to keep this childlike sense of wonder, childlike sense of vitality alive, regardless of how many years, how many experience that we have to go through or we have went through on this planet Earth in this environment, what would be one simple action that we can do every day to keep that alive?
Hmm. I would say get to know yourself. I would say that you need to get to know who you truly are, your values, what's important to you, what makes you come alive, and stay true to the path and do everything possible to build the life that you want. Because I think that to me, that's what will bring you sustainable joy and peace over your lifetime.
And no judgment. There's no value that's higher than the other. And
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's
right.
also love.
Yeah, we're talking about altruistic values, right? Those virtues that anybody can agree. This is what's going to advance humanity. Love, integrity, honesty. Well, I'll bring some of my own from the book. Advocacy, trust, kindness, patience, humility.
It's such a wonderful conversation, Marcel. And it's just so comforting to have a conversation like that. And I hope gives provides some sort of healing and encouragement and love to all our audiences who are
Mm.
listening and who can carry this piece of love and plant it inside of themselves and let it bloom and share it with people that they surround with, coworkers, talents, and people who are in their families. Like just everywhere they go, they share this sense of love. It's beautiful. So for our audiences, if you want to connect with Marcel, his contact information is in the show notes below. If you are curious about the book, I strongly recommend you to pick up the book and start reading through it and all the values and all the things. And there's a lot of reflections, guided activities in the book, and I filled some of them out. And so it's helping me to understand myself a little bit more. And as he mentioned, awareness is also important for us to lead and love. So thank you so much, Marcel, for this beautiful, beautiful, loving conversation that we had. And such a honor and pleasure to get to meet you and for all the work that you are doing in your space. Thank you very much.
Well, I have to say the same right back at you. Thank you for what you do, and especially for holding this sacred space for these conversations to develop. And we have to have more of these. And there's too much suffering, too much division in the world. And this is how we kind of reclaim some of that territory back, right? And point people in the right direction. So I want to thank you for holding this space for us to do that.
Thank you, Marcel.